If you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or trapped in cycles of struggle, this audiobook will change everything. You'll discover the single truth that dissolves resistance, rewires your mindset, and unlocks effortless progress. Once you understand this, life becomes clearer, simpler, and entirely within your control, starting today. Intro: the one truth that changes everything. Most people don't struggle because life is too hard. They struggle because they have been fighting the wrong battle for far too long. Every challenge you face, every moment of doubt, every wave of procrastination, every frustration that follows you from one day to the next comes from a single misunderstanding. A misunderstanding so deeply woven into everyday life that almost no one notices it. And because they don't notice it, they stay stuck, repeating the same habits, same fears, the same emotional patterns over and over again. This audiobook is not built to give you a temporary dose of motivation. It's not written to entertain you with inspiring quotes or short-lived encouragement. It is designed to reveal the one truth that, once understood, dissolves struggle at its source. A truth that changes how you think, how you act, and how you see yourself. Because struggle does not come from the world outside you. It comes from the resistance inside you. People remain stuck because they believe struggle is caused by their circumstances, lack of time, lack of money, lack of support, lack of opportunity. But the real reason is far more internal. They are fighting themselves. They want change, yet they fear the discomfort that change demands. They want progress, yet they avoid the uncertainty that progress brings. They want success, yet they cling tightly to the familiar patterns that keep them safe, even when those patterns keep them small. This internal conflict, this pull between desire and fear, creates friction. And that friction is what we call struggle. Struggle is not a lack of ability. It's the misdirection of your inner power. Your mind can push you forward or pull you backward. Your emotions can ignite action or silence it. Your beliefs can empower you or imprison you. Most people aren't held back by reality. They're held back by how they interpret reality, by the stories and meanings they've unconsciously accepted as truth. And until you understand the real source of that story, you will continue to fight battles that don't need to be fought. Struggle is created by a hidden mechanism. Imagine pushing against a door with all your strength because you think it opens outward. You try harder. You lean into it. You get frustrated. You think you're not strong enough? But the door was never locked. It simply opens inward. This is how internal struggle works. You push harder and harder, thinking more force is the answer. More discipline, more motivation, more effort. But effort is not the problem. Direction is. You are pushing against your own mind. You resist the discomfort of change. You resist the uncertainty of the unknown. You resist the reality in front of you. And resistance is exhausting. When you finally see this, when you understand that, the struggle is not coming from life, but from your response to it, you gain power over it. The moment you stop resisting what is and start working with it instead of against it, everything begins to shift. This audiobook offers one powerful promise. If you understand the true source of your struggle, you will never struggle in the same way again. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop fighting yourself. When you understand the mechanism behind your hesitation, your frustration, your self-doubt, and your inaction, you can dissolve them. You stop treating symptoms and begin transforming the cause. You start seeing pain as information instead of punishment. Challenges become signals rather than threats. Discomfort becomes a sign of growth instead of something to avoid. Discipline becomes a natural extension of clarity rather than a battle of willpower. And obstacles become teachers that guide you instead of enemies that scare you. You stop running from the things meant to shape you. There is a stronger, clearer, more capable version of you already inside. The only thing standing between you and that version is a misunderstanding, an illusion about where struggle comes from and what it means. Once you see through it, once you understand this truth, everything changes. Life stops feeling like a fight and begins to feel like movement. Growth stops feeling like pain and begins to feel like alignment. And you stop being your greatest obstacle and become your greatest ally. This is the beginning of that transformation. This is the doorway. And once you walk through it, nothing in your inner world will ever look the same again. Chapter 1. The Invisible Chains. Why most people stay stuck. Most people never realize how deeply their lives are shaped by invisible chains. These chains are not physical. They are not made of metal or iron. They are made of thoughts, memories, habits, fears, and assumptions that have been repeated so many times that they start to feel like truth. People wake up every day thinking they are free, but they continue to act inside the limits of the beliefs they've unconsciously accepted. And because these limits feel normal, they never question them. They never examine them. They simply live inside them, imagining that their boundaries are just the way life is. The truth is far more powerful. People don't stay stuck because they lack potential. They stay stuck because they have been trained. Over time, to stay inside a mental cage, the human mind is brilliant at building patterns. Once it learns a behavior, it repeats it. Once it accepts a belief, it protects it. Once it experiences fear, it avoids the situation that caused it. This is how the mind keeps us safe. But this same safety mechanism often becomes the barrier to growth. You may want a better life, but if your subconscious believes that change is dangerous, it will resist you. It will create excuses, distractions, doubts, and emotional pressure to pull you back into what feels familiar. These patterns were created quietly, unconsciously, through repetition, through moments when you felt unprepared, unsupported, or afraid. Over time, they became rules your brain operates by. You don't question these rules because they don't come as words. They come as feelings, hesitation, anxiety, procrastination, tension, heaviness. Most people interpret these feelings as truth, not signals. They assume the feeling means stop, when in reality, it only means this is unfamiliar. The comfort zone is not a place. It is a loop, a repeated pattern of familiar thoughts, predictable actions, and safe emotions. The comfort zone feels warm because it removes uncertainty, but it also removes possibility. You can't grow inside it. You can't evolve inside it, and you definitely can't become the person you dream of becoming while operating inside the same mental and emotional loops that have kept you stuck. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it slowly drains your potential. It convinces you that staying the same is safer than taking a step into the unknown. And the longer you stay in comfort, the more painfully the unknown begins to look. This is how the loop strengthens itself. Comfort breeds fear, and fear pushes you deeper into comfort. Mental resistance is the bodyguard of the comfort zone. It appears every time you try to do something new or uncomfortable. It whispers, "Not today." You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You're not ready yet. It creates mental fog, excuses, and distractions. It suddenly makes you remember something else you need to do right now. It makes progress feel heavy and slow. And the most dangerous part? It feels rational. It feels reasonable. The resistance doesn't scream. It calmly convinces you that staying where you are is the smartest choice. This is how powerful the mind is. It can make inaction feel like protection, even when it's actually self-sabotage. People become prisoners of their own expectations. Long before they realize what has happened, expectations shape identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. And results reinforce identity again. If you expect yourself to fail, you won't try with your full strength. If you expect yourself to be average, you won't push into excellence. If you expect things to be hard for you, you will approach them with hesitation and fear. And when you act from hesitation, you create the very outcome you expected. The cycle feeds itself. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, trapping you in the same identity you've been carrying for years. The most common expectation people carry is that change must be difficult. They expect transformation to require force, struggle, and suffering. And because they expect it, they create it. But change is not inherently hard. What makes change difficult is the resistance you feel toward it, the fear of leaving the identity you know. It's the story you've been telling yourself, the environment that feels familiar. Growth demands that you become someone new. And the mind resists that, not because it wants to harm you, but because it's trying to keep you aligned with the identity it has memorized as safe. Your expectations are not just thoughts. They are internal instructions. If you expect yourself to fail, your mind will lower your energy to match that expectation. If you expect yourself to succeed, your mind will search for ways to support that success. This is why two people can face the same challenge and have completely different experiences. One sees it as impossible and retreats. The other sees it as possible and takes the first step. The difference is not ability. It is expectation. Most people never challenge their expectations, so they live inside the same emotional patterns for decades. They wake up feeling the same way, thinking the same thoughts, repeating the same behaviors, and wondering why nothing changes. They are trapped not by life, but by the story they've unconsciously agreed to. They have accepted limits that were never real. They have allowed fear to become their guide. They have let comfort become their prison. And because these chains are invisible, they don't even realize they're wearing them. But the moment you see these invisible chains, the instant you realize that you created these patterns, and therefore you can change them, everything starts to shift. Awareness alone weakens the chain. Once you recognize that resistance is not a warning but a sign you are moving toward growth, it loses its power. Once you understand that comfort is not safety but stagnation, you begin looking beyond it. And once you see that your expectations have been shaping your life, you gain the ability to rewrite them. The truth is simple. You are not stuck. You have just been living inside a mental loop that no longer serves you. The chains were never locked, they were only unquestioned. And the moment you begin to question them, the moment you begin to see yourself clearly, you take your first step outside the prison of your own mind. Chapter 2. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. Most people see pain as something to avoid, escape, or silence as quickly as possible. They believe discomfort means something is wrong, something is broken, or something is failing. From childhood, we are taught to fear pain, to push it away, to treat it like a threat. But the truth is far more empowering. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your early warning system. Pain is your signal for growth. Pain is your internal messenger telling you exactly where your next breakthrough lives. When you stop running from discomfort and start listening to it, your entire relationship with life changes. Discomfort exists for a reason. It pushes you toward awareness. It forces you to see something you've been ignoring. It highlights what needs attention. The body uses discomfort to tell you to protect yourself, to heal, or to strengthen. The mind uses discomfort to show you where you've hit an internal limit. Emotional discomfort signals where you've avoided confronting truth. Psychological discomfort points out where your beliefs no longer match the reality you want to create. In every form, discomfort has a purpose. It is the friction that reveals the edge of your current identity. The problem isn't pain itself, it's the meaning you attach to pain. When you see discomfort as a personal failing, you will avoid it. When you see discomfort as guidance, you will follow it. Successful people do not experience less pain than others. They simply interpret pain differently. Where most people feel discomfort and retreat, successful people feel discomfort and lean in. They understand that pain is part of any meaningful transformation. They know that discomfort is the sign they are expanding. They expect it, they respect it, and they use it. When something feels difficult, they don't say this means I can't. They say this means I'm growing. This shift in interpretation is what separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck. The pain does not change, only the meaning does. And meaning determines how you act. Hardship becomes powerful the moment you stop seeing it as punishment. Pain does not arrive in your life to weaken you. It arrives to expose what is ready to be strengthened. Think about any area where you've improved emotional resilience, discipline, maturity, confidence, understanding. All of it came from confronting something difficult. Every breakthrough was built on discomfort. Every step forward required you to let go of an old version of yourself. Pain is the pressure that forces you to grow beyond what you thought was possible. When you avoid hardship, you avoid the lessons that would have built your strength. When you embrace hardship, you gain access to parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed. The people who rise in life are not those who avoid pain, but those who know how to read it. Pain is information. It tells you what needs to change. It shows you what you've outgrown. It points you toward the areas of your life that require more honesty, more courage, or more clarity. When you feel emotional pain, it usually means something in your life is misaligned, a boundary you haven't set, a belief you need to challenge, a truth you need to accept, or an environment you need to leave. Psychological pain shows up when your thoughts, habits, or expectations no longer match your goals. Physical pain tells you where you're pushing too hard or not enough. Every form of pain is communication. But communication only helps you if you listen. Most people don't listen. They panic. They numb. They distract themselves. They run back to comfort. They treat pain like a warning instead of like a teacher. And because they do not listen, the pain repeats itself. It gets louder. It gets heavier. It becomes a cycle. But the moment you listen, truly listen, you start to break the cycle. You begin to understand what your life has been trying to tell you. And you start to make decisions that bring relief not through escape, but through alignment. Pain also reveals your strength. You do not know how strong you are until something forces you to find out. Hardship pulls out the qualities that comfort hides. When life challenges you, it brings your patience, your resilience, your intelligence, your creativity, your determination, and your character to the surface. You discover a deeper version of yourself, a version that only emerges when you are pushed. Without discomfort, those inner resources remain dormant. With discomfort, they awaken. Turning pain into power requires a simple shift. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And start asking, "What is this trying to show me?" The first question makes you a victim. The second question makes you a student. The moment you become a student of your pain, everything changes. Pain no longer feels like a threat. It becomes a guide. It becomes the compass pointing toward the next version of your life. When you stop seeing pain as the enemy, the fear of discomfort begins to fade. You stop avoiding opportunities that challenge you. You stop running from change. You stop hiding from truth. You start standing in your own power. Pain becomes a companion, a signal, a teacher. And once you learn to read it, you become far more capable than you ever imagined. You may not be able to control every challenge in your life. You can control how you interpret it. And when your interpretation changes, your experience changes. Pain becomes strength. Hardship becomes wisdom. Discomfort becomes transformation. And you begin to realize that every difficult moment in your life was not breaking you, it was building you. Chapter 3, the moment you stop running. There is a moment in every person's life when running becomes more exhausting than facing the truth. Most people spend years, sometimes decades, avoiding the realities that would set them free. They avoid the truth about their habits, their fears, their relationships, their limitations, their excuses, and their potential. They avoid the truth about who they have become and who they could be. It is not because people are weak. It is because clarity is intimidating. Clarity demands honesty. Clarity forces you to confront the gap between your current life and the life you say you want. And that gap can feel so wide, so uncomfortable, that running seems easier than acknowledging the truth staring back at you. People run from truth because truth removes their illusions. When you see things clearly, you can no longer hide behind excuses. You can no longer pretend that circumstances alone are responsible for your lack of progress. You can no longer blame the world for the things you refuse to face within yourself. And that level of honesty is terrifying for those who have built their identity around avoidance. Running offers a sense of temporary safety. It allows you to push away discomfort for a moment. But every time you run, the truth grows heavier. It waits for you. It lingers in your mind. It reappears in your frustrations, your disappointments, and your emotional patterns. You can escape for a while, but you cannot outrun yourself. The truth you avoid is often the truth that could change everything. When you stop running and finally look at your life with clarity, something powerful happens. You begin to understand that the fear you carried was never about the truth itself, only your interpretation of it. You feared what you thought clarity meant. You feared judgment. You feared failure. You feared responsibility. But the truth is not a punishment. It is a mirror. It shows you where you are, not to shame you, but to guide you. It reveals the distance you must travel, not to discourage you, but to prepare you. The moment you face reality directly, the fear begins to lose its power. Fear thrives in the dark. It dissolves when exposed to light. Acceptance is one of the strongest weapons a human being can possess. Acceptance is not giving up. It is not surrendering to weakness. It is the act of seeing things as they are without denial, exaggeration, or distortion. When you accept the truth, you reclaim your power. You stop wasting energy, resisting what already exists. You stop fighting reality and instead begin working with it. Acceptance opens the door to progress, because progress can only begin from where you truly are, not from where you pretend to be. People misunderstand acceptance because they confuse it with passivity. But acceptance is active. It is courageous. It takes strength to look at your flaws without collapsing. It takes maturity to admit that you are responsible for your actions, your habits, your reactions, and your choices. It takes self-awareness to see that your old patterns have created your current life. And it takes wisdom to realize that holding on to denial only delays your transformation. The people who grow the fastest are not the ones who fight the hardest. They are the ones who accept reality the quickest. Acceptance gives them clarity, and clarity gives them direction. When you stop running, your inner world becomes quieter. The mental noise begins to fade. The anxiety that came from avoidance loses its intensity. The stress you felt was not from the truth itself, but from trying to keep the truth hidden. When you face reality directly, that tension dissolves. You no longer need to use energy to maintain illusions. You no longer need to pretend, avoid, or escape. Instead, you can redirect that energy toward change. You can finally build instead of run. You can finally grow instead of hide. The moment you face the truth, a shift begins inside you. You start to see that clarity was never the enemy, it was the foundation you were missing. You begin to understand that acknowledgement is the first step to freedom. When you stop running, you open the door to self-mastery. You start to make decisions based on reality, not fear. You start noticing your habits with honesty, your patterns with precision, and your thoughts with awareness. And once you can see what's happening inside you, you become capable of changing it. Reality is not your enemy. Avoiding it is. Avoidance keeps you stuck. Acceptance moves you forward. When you accept your flaws, you can improve them. When you accept your fears, you can overcome them. When you accept your weaknesses, you can strengthen them. When you accept your mistakes, you can learn from them. Acceptance is the beginning of self-respect. It is the moment you tell yourself, I am strong enough to face this. The life you want begins the moment you stop running from the life you have. The dreams you desire become possible when you stop pretending you are powerless. The internal battles you fight every day become lighter when you stop avoiding the truth that causes them. Running may feel easier in the moment, but it traps you in a cycle. Facing the truth may feel uncomfortable, but it frees you from that cycle. Every person who has transformed their life, every leader, every achiever, every creator, has had a moment when they stopped running and turned toward the truth. That moment was the turning point. That moment was the birth of change. And now, this moment can be yours. You do not need to fix everything at once. You only need to stop running. Look at your life with clarity. Look at your patterns with honesty. Look at your desires with courage. Stand still. Breathe. Let the truth speak. Let acceptance guide you. Because once you stop running and face reality directly, you discover something extraordinary. The truth you feared is the truth that will set you free. Chapter 4. What you believe shapes what you can do. Every action a person takes, every risk they attempt, every dream they pursue, every challenge they avoid begins long before the moment of choice. It begins in the quiet place inside the mind where belief lives. Most people think their behavior shapes their identity, but the truth is the opposite. Identity shapes behavior. A person will always act in alignment with who they believe they are. If someone sees themselves as someone who fails, they will unconsciously sabotage opportunities. If they see themselves as someone who isn't capable, they will filter out proof of their own strength. If they believe the world is against them, they will interpret neutral situations as threats. Life bends itself around identity, quietly and visibly. That is why two people can face the same situation and live two completely different realities. It's not the world that separates them. It's the story running in the background of their minds. Most people don't realize that the beliefs controlling their lives were created years ago, often in childhood or during moments of emotional impact. A criticism from a parent, a humiliation at school, failure that felt too heavy to carry. These moments sink into the nervous system and become the invisible script that whispers, "Be careful. Don't try. Don't trust. Don't speak. Don't hope too loudly." And with time, people stop questioning these beliefs. They treat them like absolute truth. They build identities around them. They say things like, "I'm not a disciplined person. I always mess things up. I'm not meant to succeed. I can't handle pressure, or I'll never be like those people." These sentences sound like descriptions, but they are actually prison bars. They lock a person into a version of themselves that may have never been real to begin with. The mind is powerful, but it is also obedient. It listens to whatever story you repeat most often. If you repeatedly tell yourself you're not the kind of person who can change, your mind will make sure your actions match that belief. It's not personal, it's mechanical. The brain wants internal congruence, so it shapes your behavior to match your self-perception. This is why people sabotage opportunity, why they procrastinate, why they repeat the same patterns even when they know they deserve better. The problem is not that they're weak. The problem is that their actions are being controlled by an outdated identity that was never updated. If you look closely at every major transformation in someone's life, you will always find a moment where identity shifts. Not overnight, not magically, but decisively. It's the moment a person stops saying, "This is just who I am," and starts saying, "This is who I'm becoming." It's the moment they realize identity is not fixed, it is chosen. The truth is that everything you believe about yourself is just a story, and stories can be rewritten. You don't escape the prison by trying harder. You escape it by questioning who built it. Successful people are not fearless. They are not born confident. They don't possess some magical gene for discipline or clarity. What they do have is a different belief structure. They believe they can learn. They believe they can adapt. They believe discomfort is temporary. They believe improvement is available. Their identity is not anchored to past failures. It is anchored to possibility. They see themselves as someone capable of growth, and that single belief changes the entire trajectory of their lives. It makes them take action even when they feel uncertain. It makes them resilient after failure. It makes them persistent when results are slow. Their beliefs give them permission to become better. The challenge is that most people wait for evidence before changing their beliefs. They say, "I'll believe in myself once I succeed. I'll feel confident once I achieve something. I'll trust myself once I stop failing." But this is backwards. Belief comes before evidence. Action comes before confidence. The identity shift comes before the results. You cannot build a new life with an old identity. You cannot step into a bigger future while carrying a smaller version of yourself. Transformation begins the moment you decide you are no longer the person who settles, who hides, who avoids, who doubts. You become the person who tries, who learns, who grows, who acts even imperfectly. Rewriting your internal script is not about pretending or forcing positivity. It's about becoming aware of the beliefs running your life and choosing which ones deserve to stay. It's asking yourself questions like, who told me I couldn't? Whose voice am I still obeying? Is this belief helping me or hurting me? If I wipe the slate clean, who would I choose to be now? These questions break the illusion that identity is fixed, that you're trapped, that life is something happening to you rather than something you are actively shaping. You are not the sum of your past. You are the sum of what you choose to believe today. If you believe you are someone who can rebuild, you will. If you believe you are someone who can show up consistently, you'll find the strength. If you believe you are capable of more, your actions will begin aligning with that possibility. The world responds to who you decide to be. The moment you understand that identity is self-created, life stops being something you endure and becomes something you design. Your beliefs are not small things. They are the blueprint of your reality. If you change them, you change the direction of your life. That is the power you've always had, whether you realized it or not. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait for proof. You can begin now by choosing the story you want to live in, then stepping into it with both feet. Chapter 5. Discipline isn't hard when you understand energy. Most people believe they have a discipline problem, but what they truly have is an energy problem. They think they lack motivation. They think they are lazy. They think something is wrong with them because they cannot consistently push themselves toward the life they want. But discipline is not about willpower or forcing yourself to move when everything inside you feels heavy. Discipline becomes almost effortless when you understand how your energy works. The reason people struggle is not because they don't care. It's because they are constantly working against their own internal current. They're trying to push forward while their energy is pointing in the opposite direction. Motivation by itself is unreliable. It rises and falls like weather. It shows up when the path is easy, and it disappears the moment things become uncomfortable. People blame themselves for this, but motivation was never designed to carry you. It was designed to spark you. The real engine of consistent action is not motivation, it's alignment. When your energy aligns with your goals, action feels natural. When your internal state matches the direction you want to go, discipline becomes the path of least resistance. When you stop fighting yourself, progress stops feeling like a battle. People often call themselves lazy, but laziness is almost always a misdiagnosed energy mismatch. When your body resists action, it's usually because your mind is overwhelmed, your emotions are scattered, or your expectations are unrealistic. You're not unwilling, you're overloaded. Humans don't shut down because they don't want to act. They shut down because their nervous system is protecting them from perceived threat. Every undone task, every unfinished dream, every step you know you should take, but haven't, these pile up internally and create a fog that drains energy before you even begin. The weight people feel is not laziness. It's unprocessed tension. The truth is that discipline becomes far easier the moment you stop expecting yourself to leap. The brain doesn't fear effort. It fears change. It fears uncertainty. It fears the emotional cost of failure. That's why big goals feel impossible from the starting line. Your brain is not fighting the action. It's fighting the imagined pain attached to the action. So the secret is to stop trying to attack the entire mountain, and instead take the smallest possible step. Micro-starts are the antidote to overwhelm. A micro-start is not about progress, it's about ignition. It's the moment you shift from stillness to motion. It can be as small as opening a document, walking for 1 minute, cleaning one item, writing one sentence, or taking one deep breath before beginning. The step itself barely matters. What matters is breaking the inertia. Once you start, momentum takes over. Momentum is a psychological phenomenon where movement creates more movement. Starting is hard, but continuing is much easier. The moment your body realizes you are already doing the thing, resistance drops dramatically. People underestimate how much momentum shapes behavior. When you're in motion, your brain reclassifies the task from threat to process, and the emotional tension fades. This is why you can struggle for an hour to start something, but once you do, you wonder why you resisted for so long. Momentum hacks your energy. It transforms tasks from mountains into pathways. Discipline is not about being strong. It's about being strategic. If you want consistency, you need to remove the emotional friction that drains energy before action begins. That friction often comes from unclear goals, unrealistic expectations, or the internal belief that things must be perfect. Perfection steals energy faster than any physical effort. It convinces you that if you can't do something completely, you shouldn't do it at all. This is the trap that keeps people stuck. But discipline is built not from perfect days, but from small, repeatable actions that compound over time. Imperfect effort is infinitely more powerful than perfect intentions. Another hidden factor in energy alignment is identity. If you believe you're someone who struggles with discipline, your energy will reflect that belief. Your body will hesitate. Your mind will resist. But if you shift your identity toward "I'm someone who shows up," your energy reorganizes itself. You begin to take actions that match the identity you're adopting. Even small actions reinforce that identity, creating a feedback loop that strengthens consistency. The moment you start identifying as someone who follows through, you begin to naturally behave like that person. You can also become more disciplined by designing your environment to reduce energy waste. Every decision you make, what to wear, what to eat, when to start, how to begin, costs energy. Successful people simplify as many decisions as possible. They create routines, reduce distractions, and design their surroundings so action requires less effort. This isn't about restriction. It's about optimizing energy flow. When your environment supports your goals, discipline feels less like self-control and more like the natural expression of your day. Discipline becomes effortless. When you stop trying to force action from a depleted state and start working with your energy instead of fighting it, you don't need more motivation. You need clarity. You need small beginnings. You need environments that support growth. You need identity shifts that align with who you want to become. And most importantly, you need to stop judging yourself for energy patterns you never understood until now. Once you learn to manage energy, your emotional energy, your mental energy, your physical energy, discipline stops feeling like a battle. It becomes the quiet, steady rhythm of a person who is no longer fighting their own nature. You move forward not because you force yourself, but because forward is simply where your energy flows now. And that is the kind of discipline that lasts a lifetime, effortless, aligned, and deeply powerful. Chapter 6. The Secret of Internal Power. Focus. If there is one force that separates a life of scattered effort from a life of meaningful progress, it is focus. Not talent. Not motivation. Not luck. Focus. Your attention is the real currency of success. Because whatever you consistently give your attention to becomes your reality. People think success comes from doing more, but the truth is the opposite. Success comes from directing your energy toward fewer, more important things with greater intensity. When you understand focus, you unlock a kind of internal power that most people never discover. You stop being pulled by distractions, noise, and impulses. You begin to move through life with intention, clarity, and quiet strength. The modern world is engineered to fracture attention. Every notification, every feed, every flashing icon is a hook designed to pull your mind away from your priorities. And the cost of that distraction is far greater than people realize. Distraction doesn't just take time, it takes life force. Every time your attention is hijacked, you lose a piece of mental energy, a slice of clarity, a fragment of your ability to stay connected to what matters. Over time, this creates a mind that is anxious, unfocused, and overstimulated. Many people believe they are undisciplined, but what they truly are is overstimulated. Their minds are exhausted from switching tasks, shifting thoughts, and chasing dopamine spikes that give the illusion of productivity but leave them empty afterward. When your attention is scattered, your power is scattered. You cannot build anything meaningful in that state, whether it's a dream, a relationship, a skill, or a new identity. Focus is the gathering of energy. It is the moment when your mental, emotional, and physical resources align in a single direction. When you focus deeply on something, you magnify your ability. You think more clearly. You create more efficiently. You learn faster. You become more capable. Focus is not just a skill. It is a multiplier. But the challenge is that most people treat focus as something you either have or don't have. They think distractions are irresistible forces, but distractions are only powerful when the mind is weak. And the mind becomes weak when it hasn't been trained. Focus is a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. At first, your mind will wander. It will resist. It will crave stimulation because that is what it has been conditioned to expect. But if you gently and consistently guide your attention back to what matters, you will build endurance. You will build clarity. You will eventually build mastery. The first step in strengthening focus is understanding the true cost of distractions. Every distraction breaks the momentum of your thoughts. When you stop to check your phone, browse something meaningless, or indulge in a small escape, you don't just lose the minutes you spent, you lose the depth you were building. Deep focus requires a warm-up period, a settling of the mind. Each time you interrupt it, you reset that process. That is why someone can work for hours and accomplish nothing, while another person can work for 90 minutes in a deeply focused state and produce extraordinary results. It's not the time that matters. It's the quality of attention. To build the muscle of focus, you must simplify your internal world. You cannot concentrate when your mind is cluttered with unresolved thoughts and emotional noise. Clarity begins with intentional boundaries. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Create a space where your mind knows what is expected. Set time blocks dedicated to one task and nothing else. When your mind begins to wander, because it will bring it back gently without judgment, the goal is not perfection. The goal is presence. Every time you return your attention, you strengthen the neural pathways responsible for concentration. Another powerful way to build focus is to eliminate micro-distractions. These are the small, constant interruptions that break your rhythm. Glancing at your phone, switching tabs, checking messages, or letting your thoughts drift into worry. Micro-distractions may seem harmless, but they fracture your mental energy. They train your mind to expect randomness instead of sustained attention. The more you reduce these tiny leaks, the more energy you reclaim. Focus also grows when you give yourself fewer choices. The mind becomes sharp when it knows exactly what to do. If you wake up without clarity, your attention will scatter. But if you begin your day with a clear intention, one task that matters above everything else, your focus becomes a tool instead of a struggle. Your energy has direction. Your actions have meaning. As your focus strengthens, something remarkable begins to happen. You feel more alive. When you pour your attention into something meaningful, your craft, your health, your growth, you experience a sense of depth that distractions can never provide. Deep focus creates fulfillment because it connects you to your own potential. It is the state where you meet the best version of yourself. It is the state where progress feels natural and time seems to expand. In a world where attention is constantly under attack, the person who controls their focus controls their future. Focus is internal power. It is a quiet force that shapes the direction of your life without needing anyone's permission. When you choose where your attention goes, you choose what kind of person you become. And every day, with every moment, you reclaim from distraction. You take another step toward the life you are capable of building. Chapter 7. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. Most people believe their biggest problem is time. They think if they had more hours in the day, more space in their schedule, more freedom from responsibilities, then they would finally be able to pursue the life they truly want. But this is an illusion, one of the most persistent and convincing illusions humans carry. The truth is that time is never the real issue. If more time were the answer, almost everyone would already be living at their highest potential, because everyone on Earth has the same 24 hours. What separates the people who move forward from the people who stay stuck is not time, it's clarity. Clarity is the invisible force that transforms hours into progress. Without clarity, tasks expand, energy drains, decisions multiply, and procrastination takes over. With clarity, even small blocks of time become powerful. Clarity turns confusion into direction. It turns hesitation into action. It turns problems into steps. When you know exactly what needs to be done, you don't need long stretches of time, you need intention. What people call a lack of time is almost always a lack of clarity, disguised as frustration. When your mind doesn't know what the next step is, delays. Not because you're weak or lazy, but because the brain avoids ambiguity. Unclear tasks feel threatening. The mind resists starting because it doesn't know how much effort is required or what success looks like. This uncertainty activates procrastination as a form of self-protection. The moment something becomes clear, precise, concrete, defined, the resistance begins to disappear. You don't overcome procrastination with more discipline. You overcome it with more clarity. The reason people feel overwhelmed is because they are carrying vague goals and undefined expectations. They say things like, I need to get my life together. I need to work on myself. I need to become more productive. I should start changing, or I really need to fix this part of my life. These statements sound like direction, but they are actually fog. They give the brain no target, no anchor, no starting point. So the mind stalls. And then the person blames their lack of time, when the truth is that no amount of time can help a person whose goals have no shape. Clarity begins with specificity. A clear life starts with clear tasks, clear boundaries, and clear priorities. Instead of saying, I need to get healthier, clarity says, I will walk for 20 minutes after breakfast. Instead of saying, I need to work on my business, clarity says, I will write 1 page of my plan today. Instead of saying I should be more focused, clarity says, from 9 to 10 a.m. My phone will be off, and I will finish this one task. Specificity removes the emotional friction that stops you before you begin. It gives the brain a clear path to follow, and suddenly time becomes enough. When you know the next step, you move. When you don't, you delay. That is why clarity is more valuable than time. It is the key that unlocks action. And action creates momentum, which creates results, which creates motivation. People think motivation leads to action, but it's the opposite, creates motivation. And action begins with clarity. Once clarity is established, something powerful begins to happen. Time expands. Not literally, but psychologically. Clear tasks take less time because you're not wasting energy deciding, doubting, or restarting. It's the mental uncertainty, not the work itself, that drains people. A cluttered mind makes even simple tasks feel heavy. A clear mind makes complex tasks feel manageable. There is a simple truth. A person with clarity can accomplish more in a focused 30-minute session than a person without clarity can accomplish in 3 unfocused hours. You don't need more time. You need fewer question marks. Another hidden power of clarity is that it creates the conditions for effective feedback. Without clarity, you cannot measure progress. You don't know whether you're improving, stagnating, or drifting. But with clarity, the path becomes measurable. And when something is measurable, it becomes adjustable. This creates the clarity action feedback loop, which is the engine of personal transformation. It works like this. Clarity gives you the next step. Action turns that step into reality. Feedback teaches you whether that step needs to change. Then clarity adjusts based on what you've learned. This loop is the foundation of mastery. It's how people become experts, how they improve their habits, how they grow their confidence. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a clear starting point, followed by action, followed by honest reflection. The clarity action feedback loop also eliminates the fear of failure because failure becomes data, not judgment. When something doesn't work, you don't blame yourself, you adjust. When a plan falls apart, you refine it. When you fall behind, you examine the cause instead of attacking your identity. This is how people grow without burning out or giving up. They stay in the loop. They keep moving. They stay clear, even when life gets messy. Clarity also creates emotional peace. When you know what matters, you stop wasting energy on what doesn't. When you know your priorities, you stop saying yes to everything. When you know your direction, you stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison thrives in confusion. When you're unclear about your path, everyone else's progress feels like a reminder of your own stagnation. But when you're clear, you no longer look sideways, you look forward. You begin moving through life with a quiet, steady confidence that doesn't need validation. Imagine waking up each day knowing exactly what matters. Not 100 tasks, not a mountain of undefined responsibilities, not a cloud of guilt and stress, but one thing. One clear, specific, meaningful action. This alone can change the trajectory of a life. Because when you do the right things consistently, your life reshapes itself. You don't need more time. You need clearer priorities. You need sharper boundaries. You need well-defined goals. You need a structured starting point. The people who accomplish the most are not the people with free schedules. They are the people with clear minds. Clarity makes time enough. Clarity makes effort effective. Clarity makes you unstoppable. And once you understand this, you stop chasing hours and start building direction. You begin designing your life instead of reacting to it. And in that shift, you discover a truth that changes everything. You were never behind, you were just unclear. The moment clarity enters, progress begins. Chapter 8. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Most people never start because they are waiting. Waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect energy, the perfect idea. They wait for circumstances to align as if life will pause until they feel ready. But the truth is, there is no perfect moment. Life never stops moving. The world never holds still for anyone. Waiting for perfection is the quiet trap that keeps dreams on the shelf, skills undeveloped, and potential unclaimed. It gives the illusion of safety, but in reality, it is the slow erosion of opportunity. Every moment you wait is a moment lost. Every hesitation is a choice to remain in the same place while the world continues forward. Readiness is a myth. It is not a state you stumble into. People confuse feeling ready with being capable, but the two are rarely aligned. If you waited until you felt completely prepared, you would never begin. Most of the great breakthroughs, the great transformations, the lives that inspire others, started in uncertainty. They started in discomfort. They started when someone said yes, even when the answer inside them was no. You do not become ready by waiting. You become ready by acting. Action produces readiness. Motion teaches you, molds you, and forces your mind to adapt. The first step, however small, transforms fear into experience and uncertainty into clarity. Momentum matters far more than perfection. People obsess over doing things flawlessly on the first attempt, but the first attempt is never flawless. The first attempt is the point of departure. It is the ignition. When you start moving, even imperfectly, you generate a force that compounds over time. Each action informs the next. Each choice builds energy. Each effort, no matter how small, nudges you forward. Waiting for perfection guarantees stagnation. Acting imperfectly generates progress, insight, and growth. Momentum always beats hesitation. The world favors those who move. Action produces not only readiness, but also confidence. It reduces fear because fear is rooted in the unknown, and the unknown only exists until you step into it. Once you take that first action, the fear shrinks. It becomes manageable. It becomes a guide rather than a barrier. And each successive step builds a rhythm, a pattern of forward motion that eventually transforms hesitation into habit and habit into achievement. Waiting, on the other hand, allows fear to grow, swell, and dominate. The mind convinces you that more preparation is required, when in reality, action itself is preparation. Perfection is seductive because it makes you feel safe. It promises control in a chaotic world. But perfection is also an illusion. Life is unpredictable, messy, and rarely under anyone's full control. If you wait for conditions to be perfect, you are waiting for something that does not exist. The only real control you have is the decision to start, to step forward, to act despite uncertainty. That is how mastery is built, not through waiting, but through doing. Each attempt teaches you something no theory can, no plan can, no preparation can replicate. Another trap is the idea that waiting preserves resources, energy, or dignity. People delay action because they fear failure, embarrassment, or wasted effort. But the truth is, wasted effort only exists when you do nothing with the lessons learned. Action, even if imperfect, is never wasted. Every attempt produces insight. Every failure produces information. Every step forward, however flawed, becomes a building block for the next. Waiting produces nothing. Acting produces everything. Starting imperfectly also creates courage. Courage is not absence of fear, is action in spite of fear. Each time you act before feeling ready, you expand your capacity for risk. You prove to yourself that you can begin, that you can persist, that you can adapt. Courage compounds in the same way momentum does. The first act of defiance against hesitation is the hardest. Every act afterward becomes easier, more natural, more confident. Waiting keeps you small. Acting grows you beyond what you thought possible. The key is to shift your mindset from, I must be ready to, I will start. Start with what you have, where you are, with the resources available to you. Start imperfectly and let the process teach you what perfect looks like in context. Start with small actions that generate momentum and watch as each movement makes the next one easier. Start, and the perfect moment will emerge, not as a condition you wait for, but as a byproduct of progress. Those who achieve their dreams are not the ones who wait. They are the ones who act. They are the ones who choose motion over fear, progress over perfection, and experience over hesitation. Every story of success, every life transformed, every breakthrough ever recorded began with a single step taken before feeling ready. The moment you stop waiting and begin, you step into the current of life rather than standing on its shore. Momentum carries you forward. Fear diminishes. Confidence grows. And what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. The perfect moment does not exist. Action creates it. The world rewards the bold, the willing, the persistent. Waiting only ensures you remain on the sidelines while others move forward. Step now. Move now. Begin imperfectly and let life catch up with your courage. Chapter 9. Your future is built by your daily system. Most people approach life as if success is a single event, a distant goal, or a moment of breakthrough. They set ambitious targets, create detailed plans, and visualize the end result, thinking that motivation, luck, or effort alone will carry them there. But the truth is that life does not bend toward goals. It bends toward systems. Goals are just outcomes. Systems are the processes, the routines, structures that shape your daily behavior and eventually produce the results you want. People who achieve consistently understand this. They focus less on distant milestones and more on the systems they inhabit each day, because the system compounds. While motivation fluctuates, circumstances change, and energy rises and falls. A system is simply a way of organizing your actions to produce the outcomes you desire. It is the set of habits, practices, and routines that work quietly in the background while life moves forward. Goals give you direction, but systems deliver results. A goal is a vision. I want to be fit, successful, wealthy, or knowledgeable. A system is what you actually do each day to become those things. It is the walks, the workouts, the reading, the learning, the practice, the small, consistent steps that eventually create transformation. People who obsess over goals without building, systems often fail not because they lack talent or effort, but because progress, without structure, is unsustainable. The power of a daily system is in its consistency, not its intensity. Small, repeated actions, compounded over time, produce extraordinary results. One page written each day becomes a book. One call made each day becomes a network. One disciplined choice repeated daily builds mastery, health, and confidence. People underestimate the exponential effect of these small actions because they look insignificant in isolation. But the truth is that time multiplies habits. A single effort repeated becomes momentum, and momentum turns into outcomes that feel almost magical when observed from a distance. Systems transform ordinary days into extraordinary lives. Habits are the building blocks of systems. They are the invisible infrastructure that either supports your growth or sabotages it. Good habits are not random. They are designed with intention. They are structured to reinforce each other. They create loops that reward effort with energy, progress, and satisfaction. When a habit loop is properly designed, each small action automatically triggers the next, creating a cascade of productivity. For example, exercising in the morning might boost your mood, which improves focus at work, which increases your energy for personal projects, strengthens your confidence to tackle long-term goals. One well-placed habit generates ripple effects that multiply across your life. The most successful systems are simple, repeatable, and resilient. Complexity destroys momentum. Overthinking the perfect routine leads to procrastination, analysis paralysis, and frustration. Systems do not need to be grandiose. They need to work. They need to be something you can follow even on tired days, busy days, or days when motivation is absent. The system is what carries you forward when energy and desire wane. It is the mechanism that makes progress inevitable, not accidental. And the beauty of a system is that it rewards repetition. Every time you follow it, the loop reinforces itself, making the next iteration easier and more natural. Consistency does not mean rigidity. Systems can evolve. They are adaptable structures, not chains. You improve them as you learn what works, eliminate what doesn't, and refine the process. The key is to start, to create the loop, and to trust that repetition compounds faster than perfection. People wait for the perfect system, but the perfect system only exists in action. You discover the most effective routines by practicing, observing, adjusting, and refining. Systems are living frameworks that grow stronger with feedback and experience. The sooner you begin, the sooner the compounding effect starts. Another crucial aspect of systems is the way they shift focus from outcomes to identity. When your daily system aligns with who you want to become, you begin to internalize the identity behind the actions. You stop asking, "Am I achieving enough?" and start thinking, "I am the type of person who does these things." Each completed action strengthens your self-image. Each repetition of a good habit reinforces your belief in your own capability. Over time, the system doesn't just produce results, it transforms you. You become the person who naturally produces the results you once imagined. Without relying solely on willpower or motivation, the difference between people who dream and people who achieve is not talent, luck, or intelligence. It is the presence of a systema daily mechanism that channels effort into progress. Dreams without systems remain fantasies. Systems without dreams can feel mechanical. When combined, they create unstoppable force, clear purpose guided by consistent action. And the longer a system runs, the less it relies on effort or decision-making. Because habits become automatic, energy is preserved. And focus shifts toward higher-level improvements. The system begins to carry you, not the other way around. Your future is not built in dramatic moments or monumental achievements. It is built quietly, day by day, in small choices, repeated habits, and well-structured systems. Each day you follow your system, you make yourself a little stronger, a little wiser, and a little closer to the person you are becoming. The compounding effect of consistent action ensures that even small efforts accumulate into extraordinary results. Systems are the engine of transformation. They turn ordinary time into extraordinary life. In the moment you understand that, you realize that mastery is not about working harder, it is about designing the life you want into repeatable, reinforcing loops that carry you forward. One deliberate day at a time. Chapter 10, The Power of Letting Go. What you don't need anymore. Most people carry more than they need. They carry outdated beliefs, old failures, relationships that drain rather than uplift, habits that no longer serve them, and identities that were never truly theirs. These invisible weights accumulate silently, shaping their thoughts, decisions, and actions without permission. They become like anchors, slowing movement, clouding judgment, and keeping them tethered to a version of themselves that has long expired. Yet few people recognize that letting go is not a sign of weakness, it is the most strategic form of strength. The power of release lies not in what you abandon, but in what you create space for. A clearer mind, a freer spirit, and the version of yourself that is waiting to emerge. Holding on to the past is deceptively comfortable. Familiar pain feels safer than the uncertainty of change. People cling to outdated identities because they offer a predictable sense of self. They say, "This is who I am," and confuse old patterns with truth. Perhaps you have carried a version of yourself shaped by childhood, society, or the expectations of others. Perhaps you define yourself by past mistakes, regrets, or limitations that no longer apply. Every unexamined attachment acts like a shadow, influencing decisions and limiting possibilities. To move forward, you must confront the truth. Not everything you carry is yours to keep. Letting go is not about denial, suppression, or rejection. It is about conscious evaluation. It's about asking which beliefs, patterns, or commitments serve your growth and which ones hold you back. Emotional baggage, grudges, resentment, guilt consumes mental energy and skews perception. Old habits like procrastination, negative self-talk, or endless comparison drain vitality and steal focus. Outdated identities, the versions of yourself that were shaped by fear or limitation, trap you in repetition. When you identify what no longer aligns with your vision, you gain the ability to release it intentionally without regret or judgment. Strategic quitting is the art of letting go with purpose. It is not about giving up on dreams or responsibilities, but about redirecting attention toward what truly matters. People often persist in areas that drain them because quitting feels like failure. Yet staying stuck in a path that no longer serves you is the real failure. Letting go is a declaration. I am not bound by the past. I am choosing to invest my energy where it counts. Strategic quitting allows your energy, time, and focus to concentrate on the things that accelerate growth. It is a multiplier, not a subtraction. The power of letting go also lies in its effect on space: mental, emotional, and practical. You cannot welcome new opportunities if old attachments take up every inch of your attention. No longer serves, you create breathing room for possibility. You make room for new ideas, deeper relationships, and more aligned actions. You clear the clutter in your mind, heart, and environment so that what you want most can enter without resistance. Space is not emptiness, it is potential. Act of letting go is an act of preparation for what is coming. Often, people fear letting go because they tie their identity to what they hold. They fear losing control, appearing weak, or stepping into the unknown. But the truth is that attachment is not strength, it is stagnation. The person who masters the art of release becomes fluid, adaptable, and resilient. They understand that life is a constant process of shedding what is unnecessary and embracing what is essential. Strength lies in the ability to hold on to what matters and let go of what doesn't. Letting go also rewires your internal dialogue. Every time you release a limiting belief, you reinforce your capacity for growth. Every time you quit an unproductive habit, you signal to yourself that you are in control of your choices. Every time you detach from relationships or obligations that drain you, you strengthen the boundary between who you are and what the world expects. Letting go is an act of reclaiming agency. It shifts your perspective from reaction to creation. It transforms emotional weight into clarity and focus. The process is rarely instantaneous. It requires honesty, courage, and reflection. You must look at your life with ruthless clarity and ask, what am I carrying that is no longer mine? Which patterns limit me? Which commitments do I maintain out of obligation rather than alignment? The answers may feel uncomfortable, but they are necessary. Discomfort is the signal of growth. Letting go is not easy, but it is transformative. Each release lightens your load, sharpens your focus, and amplifies your energy. It is the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. Ultimately, the power of letting go is the power of becoming. You are not defined by the baggage you discard, the habits you break, or the identities you shed. You are defined by the space you create for your potential, freedom you give yourself to grow, and the alignment you cultivate with your highest self. Life rewards those who understand that moving forward is not always about adding more writ, it is often about removing what no longer serves. When you let go strategically, you step into a life of clarity, purpose, and unstoppable forward motion. You make room for the person you are meant to become, and in that space, everything becomes possible. Chapter 11. You become unstoppable when you control this moment. Most people live their lives in two illusions: dwelling on the past, or fantasizing about the future. They believe that who they will become depends on some distant version of themselves, a future self that is more disciplined, more motivated, or more capable than who they are right now. They think they will start tomorrow, next week, or next year, imagining that change is contingent upon some perfect future circumstance. But this is a myth. The future self is an illusion. Progress, growth, and transformation are not created by dreaming about who you will be. They are created by mastering who you are in this very moment. The present is not just a fragment of time. It is the building block of destiny. Control this moment, and you control everything that follows. The future is not a place you arrive at. It is the accumulation of moments lived fully and intentionally. Every decision, every action, every thought you engage with today compounds into the person you will become tomorrow. Yet people defer action because they feel unready, unprepared, or too small to make a difference. They tell themselves, "I'll be ready when," as if readiness exists in some distant horizon. But readiness is not a precondition for action. The more you act now, the more capable you become. The more momentum you generate, and the closer you get to the life you imagine. Waiting for the future to carry you forward is surrendering control. The only way to move deliberately toward your goals is to own this moment completely. Grounding yourself in the present is a skill that few cultivate, but it is essential for becoming unstoppable. When you focus on the now, your energy is not wasted on regret, doubt, or fantasy. Your mind is clear, your attention sharp, and your actions deliberate. This is the state in which action is most potent. The future, with all its uncertainty, cannot act for you. The past, with all its mistakes, cannot be changed. But this moment, the one you inhabit, is alive, tangible, and responsive. Every small choice you make here ripples outward, shaping outcomes you cannot yet see. Mastering the moment is mastering the trajectory of your life. Action taken in the present is what converts potential into reality. People underestimate the power of small, deliberate steps. A single choice, made with clarity and commitment, may seem insignificant now, but it is the seed of transformation. Reading one page, making one call, sending one message, taking one step, are acts that accumulate. Over time, they compound into skill, progress, and confidence. The unstoppable person is not someone who waits for the perfect plan, the perfect condition, or the perfect moment. They are someone who acts now, consistently, and with purpose. Knowing that the present is the only leverage they have to shape their destiny, the myth of the future self also fosters procrastination, because people rely on an imagined version of themselves to solve problems that exist today. They think, tomorrow I'll have more energy, or next week I'll be more focused, or when I feel ready, I'll start. But the person you are tomorrow is built entirely from the actions you take today. Control over the present creates control over the future. This is not motivational platitude, it is cause and effect. Your destiny is the sum of choices stacked one moment after another. Neglect the present, and you surrender the future. Honor the present, and you become unstoppable. Being fully present also allows you to reclaim power over your energy, attention, and emotion. Most people act from distraction, anxiety, or reactive habit. They let circumstances dictate their behavior, reacting to external stimuli rather than choosing intentional responses. Grounding yourself in the now gives you sovereignty over your mind. You decide where attention goes, how energy is spent, and which actions matter most. This control is not theoretical, it is tactical. Every moment seized is an investment in competence, resilience, and progress. Every hesitation is an opportunity lost. There is another hidden advantage to mastering the present: clarity. The mind that is anchored in the moment is not clouded by fear of failure, regret over the past, or fantasies about the future. Decisions become simpler, priorities sharper, and execution more precise. When you act from clarity, you act from power. The unstoppable person is not waiting, they are moving with confidence because they understand that the present is both sufficient and decisive. Every task undertaken with full attention magnifies impact. Every choice made deliberately shapes trajectory. Present is not a rehearsal, it is the stage, and your actions write the story ultimately. The unstoppable person understands that they are not defined by potential luck or circumstance. They are defined by the moments they seize, the actions they take now, and the discipline to inhabit each second with focus and intention. Control this moment and you control your trajectory. Lose this moment to hesitation, distraction, or doubt, and you surrender power. Success is not an abstract future, it is the cumulative effect of present mastery. The future is built one decision at a time, and the most powerful decision you can make is to act fully, deliberately, and courageously in this very moment, when you stop waiting for a future self, when you stop wishing for ideal conditions, and when you commit to the present, you become unstoppable. Not because you have more time, talent, or opportunity, but because you have learned the secret that eludes most people. The only power that truly matters is the power you exercise now. Every action taken in the present is a brick in the foundation of your destiny. Ground yourself, act deliberately. The unstoppable life you seek will not just be possible, it will be inevitable. Chapter 12, Hard Times Are the Gateway to Strength. Life is not designed to be easy. The truth that most people resist is that struggle is inevitable. Pain, failure, setbacks, and resistance are not anomalies. They are the raw material of growth. The question is not whether hardship will come, but how you respond when it does. Those who succeed, who rise above mediocrity, do not avoid difficulty. They use it. They understand that hard times are not obstacles to avoid. They are gateways to strength, character, and resilience. The very moments that seem unbearable often carry the seeds of transformation if you know how to perceive them. Struggles refine character in ways comfort never can. Softness produces softness. Comfort maintains the status quo, but resistance, difficulty, and hardship force you to adapt, to develop new skills, and to strengthen the inner core that quiets fear and doubt. Imagine metal being forged. Heat and pressure do not destroy it, they shape it. Without friction, tension, and stress, there would be no form, no strength, no purpose. The same is true for human character. The challenges you face, no matter how painful, are shaping you in ways that future comfort cannot. Most people fight resistance because they misunderstand it. They see difficulty as punishment or bad luck. They interpret discomfort as a signal to retreat, to avoid, or to complain. But hardship is neutral. It is a mirror. It shows you your limits, your habits, and your priorities. The rule of transformation is simple. Resistance builds reality. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. Struggles are the sculptors of your life. They reveal weaknesses and force adaptation. They reveal courage and demand action. Every hardship is a lesson in capability, endurance, and perspective if you are willing to look honestly. Winners do not just endure adversity, they reinterpret it. Where most see obstacles, they see opportunities. Where most see chaos, they see a canvas. Where most see a setback, they see a lesson in disguise. This is not blind optimism. It is strategic perception. The mind that can reframe hardship is the mind that can generate power from pain. Failure, loss, or difficulty becomes information. A guidepost pointing toward what needs to change, what can be improved, and what must be strengthened. The process of reinterpretation is transformative because it shifts energy from despair to strategy, from fear to focus, from reaction to creation. The journey through hardship is never linear. Resistance will push back. Pain will test limits. And the temptation to quit will always be present. But the difference between those who succeed and those who surrender lies in persistence. Winners understand that the moment you resist resistance, you grow. Every act of courage against discomfort builds competence. Every choice to endure builds resilience. Every decision to act despite fear accumulates strength. Life's toughest challenges are not barriers, they are accelerators for those willing to engage them. Hard times also reveal the essence of identity. When everything is stripped away, comfort, certainty, approval, you are left with yourself. Your choices, your mindset, your habits, your courage, and your clarity define who you are. Struggle exposes truth. It reveals whether your values are real or performative, whether your discipline is genuine or situational, whether your self-belief is anchored in reality or illusion. The trials you face are mirrors that reflect both your current state and your potential if you rise to meet them. Transformation does not happen by avoiding discomfort. It happens inside it. Every time you endure resistance, you train your nervous system to handle tension. Every time you face fear, you teach your mind that it can operate under pressure. Every time you persist when others quit, you differentiate yourself in ways that compound into lasting advantage. Hard times are not setbacks. They are training sessions. They are opportunities to develop skill, patience, fortitude, and the emotional muscle necessary to achieve extraordinary outcomes. The most successful people in the world are not those who were spared difficulty. They are those who learn to dance with it. They do not let external circumstances dictate their energy or their trajectory. They actively reinterpret hardship as a signal to improve, to adapt, and to grow. Their mindset turns adversity into a catalyst. They understand that life is not merely happening to them, it is responding to how they respond. Resistance is a test of alignment between who they are and who they want to become. The stronger their response, the stronger their life. In the end, strength is forged in the crucible of experience. Hard times are the gateway because they demand more than you think you can give, and then teach you that you are capable of more than you imagined. Pain teaches endurance. Failure teaches strategy. Resistance teaches adaptability. Adversity teaches perspective. When you reinterpret difficulty as fuel rather than punishment, every challenge becomes an opportunity to accelerate toward the person you are capable of becoming. If you want to grow, to achieve, and to become unstoppable, you must stop fearing struggle. You must stop wishing life were easier. You must embrace the principle that resistance is the raw material of mastery. Hard times are not detours, they are the main road. Every challenge you endure, every obstacle you confront, every moment you push forward when it feels impossible is an investment in strength, clarity, and potential. The world rewards those who convert pain into power, struggle into skill, and adversity into achievement. The gateway to strength is open to anyone willing to step through it. Chapter 13. Confidence comes from one thing only. Most people believe confidence is something you find outside of yourself. They think it comes from approval, recognition, skill, or luck. They search for evidence in achievements, compliments, or status, hoping external validation will make them feel certain, capable, and secure. But this is a misconception. True confidence does not come from what you do, it comes from what you keep. It comes from the trust you build with yourself. Confidence is not a feeling to chase. It is a skill to cultivate. And the foundation of that skill is self-trust. Self-trust is simple in concept but profound in impact. It is the internal belief that you will act according to your word, honor your commitments, and respond to challenges with integrity. When you trust yourself, external circumstances matter far less. You do not crumble under criticism, failure, or uncertainty because your authority lies within. Self-trust is built one promise at a time, one choice at a time, one consistent action at a time. Every time you follow through on what you say you will do, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable, capable, and steady. Confidence is the natural byproduct of this. Internal reliability. The key to building self-trust is keeping promises to yourself. Most people make commitments to themselves and then ignore them. I'll start tomorrow, I'll exercise later. I'll focus after I finish this, or I'll stop procrastinating eventually. Each broken promise chips away at self-trust, quietly eroding confidence. The mind takes note of every failure, not as punishment, but as evidence of inconsistency. Over time, this builds doubt, hesitation, and insecurity. To reverse this, you must start small. Make one commitment today's, something manageable, achievably, and keep it. The act of following through, no matter how minor, signals to your brain that you are dependable. Momentum grows, and with it, internal certainty. Confidence is not about feeling ready or perfect. It is about acting with consistency regardless of emotion. People wait for motivation or courage to appear before taking action, and this is precisely why so many never feel confident. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. Self-trust grows when you act according to your values and commitments, even when it is difficult, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. Each choice strengthens the internal architecture of certainty. Every time you honor yourself, your confidence expands naturally, silently, permanently. Creating internal certainty also requires honesty. You cannot build trust on illusion. It demands that you face your weaknesses, acknowledge past mistakes, and take responsibility for your choices. Confident people do not avoid their flaws. They confront them, learn from them, and act anyway. This integrity reinforces trust. When you consistently align your behavior with your word, internal certainty becomes unshakable. You no longer rely on approval, luck, or circumstance. You are your own authority. Confidence is no longer borrowed, it is owned. The process is compounding. Each kept promise strengthens the next. Each act of integrity builds the capacity for greater trust, deeper self-reliance, and higher certainty. Small wins in self-discipline, honesty, and commitment accumulate to create a foundation so solid that external challenges cannot shake it. When doubt arises, the internal record of reliability reminds you that you can handle it. Confidence is not a gift from circumstance. It is the history of promises kept and actions taken. Another critical aspect of confidence is clarity in decision-making. When you know who you are, what you value, and what you will do, hesitation disappears. Self-trust transforms uncertainty into decisiveness. You stop second-guessing, overthinking, and seeking external validation. Your actions become aligned, deliberate, and unwavering. Confidence is the byproduct of certainty, and certainty is the byproduct of trust. The more you practice this, the less fear, doubt, or anxiety can influence your choices. Ultimately, confidence comes from one thing only: the consistent demonstration to yourself that you are reliable, capable, and committed. Nothing external can replace this internal proof. Skills, accolades, or recognition may enhance confidence, but they cannot create it at the core. Real, unshakable confidence is cultivated quietly, privately, in the moments when no one is watching. When you choose to honor yourself over convenience, consistency over comfort, and integrity over fear. When you begin to trust yourself fully, everything else changes. Your decisions are sharper. Your actions are bolder. Your presence is stronger. You stop seeking validation because you are validated by your own reliability. You move forward with certainty, courage, and authority. This is the confidence that lasts not the fleeting pride of accomplishment, but the deep-rooted assurance that you are capable of handling whatever comes next. Self-trust is the engine. Keeping promises to yourself is the fuel. Internal certainty is the result. And from this foundation, confidence becomes inevitable, unstoppable, and permanent. The moment you realize that confidence is not external, but internal, that it is earned through action rather than approval, you unlock the power to act decisively, move boldly, and pursue your goals without hesitation. Confidence, in its purest form, simply the reflection of a life aligned with your word. Chapter 14. The Truth About Success. No one wants to admit. Most people imagine success as a dramatic moment, a viral achievement, a life-altering opportunity. They expect fireworks, applause, and instant validation. Yet the reality is far different. Success is rarely glamorous. It is often quiet, repetitive, and unremarkable. It comes in small, consistent actions performed over time. It is boring in the moment, unexciting on the surface, and invisible to anyone watching. The truth that no one wants to admit is that success is built in the shadows, In the hours when no one is paying attention? In the unglamorous grind that compounds quietly into extraordinary results? The compound effect is the engine behind this invisible success. Tiny actions repeated consistently over time multiply into massive outcomes. One page read each day becomes a book. One phone call each week builds a network. One disciplined choice each morning creates a life aligned with your goals. These actions seem trivial in isolation, almost meaningless. But repeated consistently, they accumulate, layer by layer, into exponential results. Most people fail because they underestimate the power of compounding. They chase dramatic results, shortcuts, or inspiration, and when nothing happens immediately, they quit. Meanwhile, the quiet consistency of daily action is what transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Mastery of basics is the foundation that everyone overlooks. People want advanced strategies, secret techniques, and hacks, yet they neglect the fundamentals. The truth is that true success is rooted in doing the basics better than anyone else and doing them consistently. This means showing up, executing, refining, and repeating, day after day. Mastery is not glamorous. It is not flashy. It is meticulous attention to the elements that others skip, ignore, or half-heartedly attempt. The repeated execution of the fundamentals compounds silently into skill, reputation, and opportunity. Consistency is the bridge between effort and results. People often confuse effort with success, thinking that working hard in bursts will create extraordinary outcomes. But effort without structure, without repetition, without alignment, is wasted. Success favors the consistent, not the spectacular. The same actions performed reliably generate momentum that accelerates results beyond what sporadic effort could ever achieve. The most successful individuals are not those who occasionally perform brilliantly, they are those who perform consistently, day in and day out, regardless of inspiration, motivation, or attention. Another overlooked truth is patience. Compounding takes time. It cannot be rushed. People want immediate proof, instant gratification, and overnight validation. When results do not appear quickly, they abandon the process. Yet the mechanics of success are subtle. Habits grow roots slowly. Skills deepen gradually. Relationships strengthen over months, sometimes years. The quiet accumulation of effort is invisible in the moment, yet undeniable over time. Those who persist through the monotony, the repetition, and the slow buildup are the ones who achieve results that astonish others, but the astonishment is only visible because the groundwork was invisible. Success is also about prioritizing intelligently. It is not about doing everything. It is about identifying the few critical actions that produce the majority of the results and committing to them consistently. Most people scatter their energy, chasing trends, opinions, and distractions. The secret is focus, the ability to do the same essential things consistently while ignoring what does not matter. This disciplined repetition is what compounds into mastery, wealth, skill, and influence. The glamorous stories of success obscure the daily reality. Excellence is built on devotion to fundamentals, not flash or drama. Finally, embracing the boring nature of success is a mindset shift that separates the disciplined from the distracted. It requires valuing progress over recognition, persistence over applause, and consistency over excitement. The process becomes enjoyable not because it is thrilling, but because it works. The small victories, the subtle improvements, and the quiet wins create momentum, confidence, and leverage. The unglamorous effort is the hidden engine, and the moment you accept it, you align with reality rather than fantasy. You stop chasing shortcuts and start building something that lasts. The truth about success is uncomfortable because it contradicts desire for excitement, drama, and instant results. Yet those who understand this secret gain an unfair advantage. They embrace repetition, they master the basics, and they commit to compounding action over time. They understand that every unremarkable day, every disciplined repetition, every small choice matters more than a single moment of brilliance. They understand that success is invisible before it becomes undeniable. In the end, the glamorous stories are illusions. The real stories, the ones that endure, are stories of discipline, patience, and relentless execution of the fundamentals. When you accept this, the illusion of overnight success disappears, and you gain something far more valuable: the clarity to act consistently, the patience to persist, and the perspective to recognize that every small, unglamorous step compounds into extraordinary results. Mastery, influence, and achievement are not built in spectacle. They are built in quiet, relentless, daily action. Chapter 15. When you understand this, struggle disappears. All your life struggle has felt external. You've blamed circumstances, other people, bad luck, or a lack of opportunity. You've thought life is hard because the world is unfair, the path is steep, or obstacles are unavoidable. But the ultimate truth, the core revelation that changes everything, is that struggle is created internally. It is not the world that makes life difficult. It is the gap between your expectations and reality, between who you think you are and who you are actually being. Understanding this one truth is the key to dissolving resistance and living a life of clarity. Energy and flow. Struggle exists because of misalignment. You resist what is, and in that resistance, tension arises. You fight circumstances you cannot control, resent conditions you cannot change, and cling to expectations that reality does not support. The effort of pushing against life itself creates friction, frustration, and fatigue. Every time you argue with reality, you drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and multiply problems unnecessarily. The mind and body are not designed to struggle against life. They are designed to act, adapt, and move. Struggle is not inevitable. It is optional, contingent upon your internal response. When you recognize that struggle is internal, everything shifts. Life becomes simple when you align with reality rather than resist it. Acceptance is not resignation, it is power. It is the acknowledgement that what exists is what exists, and energy is best spent on action, not complaint. Aligning with reality does not mean you stop striving or giving your best. It means you stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed and focus on what can. The moment you release the illusion that life should be different, the burden of friction lifts. Progress becomes natural rather than forced. This understanding also changes how you approach challenges. Instead of feeling oppressed by obstacles, you perceive them as signals, guides, or invitations to adapt. Struggle is no longer a punishment. It is information. Each difficulty points to what must be learned, refined, or altered. Resistance disappears because you stop judging the circumstance and begin observing it. You respond with clarity rather than reaction. The energy previously spent on frustration is now available for focused action, creativity, and strategic progress. Life ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a flow of cause and effect. Flow state is the natural consequence of internal alignment. When struggle disappears, your attention is clear, your energy is directed, and your actions are synchronized with reality. In this state, tasks that once felt tedious become effortless. Decisions are made with precision, obstacles are navigated without panic, and momentum builds naturally. Flow is not mystical. It is the byproduct of harmonizing internal expectation with external circumstances. You move as the situation moves, respond as reality unfolds, and act with both power and ease. The sensation of effortlessness is not magic, it is alignment in action. Struggle also disappears when you stop over-identifying with the self that wants control. Most internal resistance stems from attachment to identity, story, or expectation. You insist, consciously or unconsciously, that life conform to your narrative. You demand that people, events, or outcomes meet your standards. This insistence produces friction, conflict, and tension. But when you detach from rigid attachment to self-image and outcome, resistance dissolves. You act from capability rather than ego. You respond to circumstances rather than reacting to them. Life flows because your internal structure is flexible, adaptive, and centered. Another critical component of dissolving struggle is clarity of purpose. When your goals, values, and actions are aligned, you stop wasting energy on conflicting priorities or indecision. Internal conflict is a form of struggle that emerges when what you do contradicts who you are or what you intend. By clarifying your principles and committing to them consistently, internal friction disappears. The tension of choice, the anxiety of doubt, and the drain of hesitation fade. You move forward with certainty because internal alignment removes the gap that generates struggle. Understanding this truth also changes your perception of time, effort, and results. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to manipulate outcomes, control people, or force circumstances. You conserve energy for high-leverage action guided by awareness and strategy. Action becomes effortless, not because challenges vanish, but because your internal machinery is no longer fighting itself. The friction that once made life heavy, tiring, and frustrating is gone. You operate with precision, efficiency, and calm, navigating complexity with a sense of internal stability. The final piece is realizing that struggle is often fueled by overthinking, imagination, and projection. You anticipate problems that may never occur, dwell on past mistakes that cannot be changed, and plan for scenarios that may never materialize. Every moment spent in mental resistance amplifies struggle. When you anchor yourself in the present, observe reality clearly, and respond directly to what is, unnecessary effort disappears. The mental space cleared by this awareness allows energy, creativity, and action to flow naturally. Struggle becomes optional because it no longer serves as a mental habit. When you truly understand that struggle is created internally, life becomes a different experience entirely. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are no longer burdened by friction, resistance, or expectation. You act with power, clarity, and fluidity. You navigate challenges effortlessly, adapt swiftly, and grow consistently. Life ceases to be a series of obstacles and becomes a continuous process of learning, adapting, and moving. Struggle is no longer the defining condition. It is a distant memory replaced by alignment, flow, and mastery. The ultimate truth is simple. When internal expectation meets external reality, struggle dissolves. When your actions, beliefs, and identity align, friction disappears. When you live in the present, respond rather than react, and accept what is while acting decisively, life becomes simple, clear, and abundant. Flow is not earned, is revealed when struggle is released. Master this, and you step into a life where effort is efficient, momentum is natural, and achievement is inevitable. The moment you understand this, you no longer fight life, you move with it. And in that movement, you discover the ultimate freedom, the disappearance of struggle, replaced by clarity, power, and the effortless flow of existence, the new life you build from today. Everything you have learned in this journey points to one fundamental truth. Your life is created from the inside out. The struggles you've faced, the patterns you've repeated, and the obstacles that once felt insurmountable were never permanent. They were signals, lessons, and catalysts pointing toward growth. Now, armed with understanding, clarity, and the tools to act intentionally, you have the power to step into a new reality, one defined not by external circumstances, but by internal mastery. The life you desire is not somewhere in the future. It is built moment by moment, choice by choice, decision by decision, starting from today. Transformation begins with awareness. You have seen how struggle is often self-created, how resistance arises from misaligned expectations, and how growth comes from deliberate action rather than wishful thinking. You have learned that confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself, that clarity eliminates procrastination, and that internal power lies in focus and energy management. Each chapter of this audiobook has been a guide to dismantle the invisible chains holding you back and to replace them with structures, habits, and beliefs that propel you forward. Awareness is the first step, but it is not enough. Real change requires action. The next step is alignment. Align your actions with reality, your energy with purpose, and your choices with your values. When you stop fighting life and start responding with clarity, momentum begins to build. You no longer expend energy on resistance, doubt, or fear. Instead, every action compounds into progress. Every small victory fuels confidence, and every disciplined habit reinforces the person you are becoming. Alignment turns effort into leverage, friction into flow, and intention into results. It is the secret bridge between where you are now and the life you envision. The core lesson, the thread that ties everything together, is simple yet profound. Mastery of yourself is the ultimate path to freedom and success. When you control your attention, energy, decisions, and internal dialogue, you remove the invisible barriers that once caused struggle. Life becomes clearer, simpler, and more effortless, not because challenges disappear, but because you respond to them from a position of power rather than reaction. Flow, focus, and clarity are the natural outcomes of internal alignment. You no longer chase success. It emerges naturally from the way you live each day. This is your call to action. Take what you have learned and apply it immediately. Examine your habits, beliefs, and commitments. Identify what holds you back and let it go. Build systems that reinforce growth, focus on the essentials, and act deliberately in each moment. Keep promises to yourself. Embrace struggle as a teacher and trust the compounding power of small, consistent victories. Do not wait for motivation, inspiration, or external validation. Start now. The moment you act in alignment with this understanding, momentum begins. You step into a cycle where progress breeds confidence, clarity breeds action, discipline becomes effortless. Remember that change is not about perfection, it's about consistency. It is not about dramatic breakthroughs. It is about invisible, unglamorous actions that over time transform everything. The life you want, the freedom you crave, and the results you dream of are built from repeated, intentional acts rooted in awareness, alignment, and self-trust. Every day you practice this, every choice you make with purpose, you strengthen the foundation of your new life as you close this audiobook. Carry this truth with you. Struggle is optional. Clarity is your compass, and mastery of self is your power. Life is not something that happens to you. It is something you create. Start today. Take control of this moment. Align with reality. Let go of what no longer serves you. Build habits that reinforce growth. Trust yourself. And watch as the life you once imagined becomes the life you live. The new life begins here, begins now, and begins with you.